west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. One west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. They ain't scaring me. Rip the soul out of Pharisee. Speaking heresy and get you fucked up apparently. It's like they daring me. I said chill, they ain't hearing me. They ain't listening. Every bar nitroglycerin. Hit your heart, bring it back to start, make you live again. Get them dividends so we start getting ignorant. I be on that soldier shit. I told you shit phenomenal. Nominee abdominal. So what you sucker trying to do? Rhyming comical. Guess it's funny until I'm bombing you. Bring apocalypse to them pussy niggas that's popping shit. Team of all-stars, I coach them up like I'm Popovich. Fuck the politics and the lobbyists and apologists. They vagina, so we gon' check them like gynecologists. It's kinda obvious how the situation is ominous. The way I vomit this and regurgitate for the audience. They start applauding this cause the competition is fraudulent. From the era where niggas smoke you up like a parliament. The flow been stupid, shit has gotten retarded since. All the dominance of one west rising to prominent. Cause I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. They want a nigga quiet, mute my maneuvers, but I ride like I got group vibes for Uber. Rhymes hard like they been viewed by Medusa. 9 milli Luger, 17 in the Ruger. Only need a few to sit up in your medulla. Obligata for the regatta, niggas wildin', they win every dollar. They riding by in black Impalas, let the semi holler. A showstopper, been the stopper since the teeny bopper. But now I'm going off Patron, a premium of vodka. I put extensions on the Glock, modify the chopper. The swore heavy, war ready, and that's working mama. No marijuana, say I got the loudest silence on it. When I'm up on it, ain't no rapper do it like I do it. A lot of spitties and writers, but when they eat on, none of them can get to the fire around with me. And I had them niggas feel like a tire, down the deep. And I'm still dope as a piper. Every bar burn hard like a spoon with a lighter. Fuel to igniter, I'm winning, coming through with the title because U.P.K. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me.
Any man give his life for Yahweh Shai, Mashiach, and Christ, and fall up under that UPK banner is my brother and my blood, and I will die and kill for him if necessary. It's all about that warfare, boy. Back up, back up, it's all about that warfare, boy. Take grip. My soldiers take grip till I'm stand down. Take grip. My soldiers take grip till I'm stand down. Take grip. Now this ain't no movement, this a takedown. We will not be moved or intimidated. We ain't the type. You got a problem? Tell them cross the fucking line. My niggas ain't polite. Soldiers to the left and right. I die for every man body. Before I be a coward, I'd rather be a dead body. This will be my kingdom when the hour pass. You can either get with it or get flipped like an hourglass. We live by honor and no excuse. Just sit to pray up to the Lord. I told him, then let all the terrorists loose. Hold your tongue or get rebuked, cause you made a truce. With a race to make merchandise out of my abuse. Scared of who? You got your gun, then pull it. Me and my niggas start to argue, it's about who gon' bite the bullet. It gon' take round. Opponents better move slow. Attack dog for this truth. Nigga, cool yo. Go to grip. It's all about that warfare, boy. Give grip. Back up. It's all about that warfare, boy. Take grip. My soldiers take grip till I'm stand down. Take grip. conceal, she modest. I know two things, a robber will not prosper. And any man harm me and my aunt gon' meet the doc. Cause this life is warfare, it's not an easy walk. Been watching my people die so you can miss me with that love talk. My I.S.U.P.K soldiers, any man try to cross your path, make him regret it. What that means? Fall on his ass. Comparing me to you really ain't no contest. Long live one West. Say what? Long live one West. This for those who thinking we ain't ready for. Tell them back up. I'm about to drop something heavy for. Go to grab, 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 go to grab. It's all about that warfare, boy. Give grab, give grab, back up, give grab, give grab, back up, give grab, give grab. It's all about that warfare, boy. Take grab, 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 take grab. My soldiers take grab till I'm stand down. Take grab, take grab, take grab, take grab, take grab, take grab, take grab. My soldiers take grab till I'm stand down.
It's 613 commandments, nigga, and you can't do 10, my nigga. Matter of fact, you can't do 1, my nigga. Let's see if you can stop eating pork. I see that pork juice running down your fork. Talk about you blessed in the streets of New York. I see that tight Christian 3-piece suit that you bought. When you gonna rock that? When you go to court? Maybe Sunday, better get Easter. I blast at you masters. Knowledge reigns supreme over all you teachers. Pedophile supporters, cool rigor mortis. Them niggas out of order. When Christ returns, you hear the screams in the chorus. Now breathe.
Revelations 6 and 17. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand?
Wicked, disgusting society that we live in, man. And we gotta separate from the society. We gotta separate. How long does the white man have to murder and kill for you to realize he's a goddamn devil? How long does he have to murder and rape and arrest and shoot unlawfully for you to realize this white man is a goddamn beast?
All he does is rape, murder, steal, and plunder. You understand that? And as a result, they destroyed our people. And as a result, our people are running around with the goddamn Wu-Tang Clan because there's a Jewish imposter on the planet. When you take away a man's identity, you can replace it with anything. That's why we're in every religion.
And what I'm telling you, what I have to teach you, every race does it automatically. You don't have to teach Asians to join themselves. You don't have to teach East Indians to join themselves. You don't have to teach Arabs. When them Africans come over here from Africa, you don't have to teach them that. You don't have to teach the Vietnamese. You have to teach us. You have to teach us.
Niggas don't stand a chance without being in the Lord's hands. Life full of lessons, look like I learned them all. Life full of blessings, but the crackers got it all. How long until they fall? How long until you call on the Lord with a sword? I'm just fighting with the few against many. Working for the Lord, I just hope I get a penny. Know the devil sent you, just look at who against you. And when the Lord with you, who can be against you? Know that I ain't Christian, just look at who I'm dissing. I'ma need for you to listen, know it's hard for you to listen when it's part of your tradition and your mama in the room. Bumping music full of Christian and your daddy not around, cause your mama's superstitious. I know she's super wicked, plus she's smoking like the kitchen, and it's all because of Nixon. Praying to the Lord like, please can you fix it? Childhood missing, cousin in the kitchen, flour on the plate. Thinking to myself, why is flour on the plate? Next thing I know, that flour turned to gay. I was only 8, I was only 8. There was nothing I could say, but daddy, can you stay? Cause here it ain't safe. Look at all these black eyes, looking like a G5 of me. I'm looking like I came out of free stove of me. I'm looking like I came out of free stove of me. It's nothing left to do but to do what they do. I wanna sell crack just to be like you. Serving to the fiends on the new avenue. Put it in the pot, motherfucker, let it stew. Look at me now, I didn't turn into you. Following the way, but I knew it wasn't cool. Shoulda did more than the average nigga do. I am not the same, but I was raised like you. Mama on crack, yeah, my daddy was too. Look at what the government did to you. That's why I don't vote. They put us on dope. Now I'm in the street, I was selling fake dope. Christian church too, they just selling fake hope. Just remember this, what you reap is what you sow.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Damn right, I'm a UPK nigga. Straight out of 1 West, no contest. We the best to the niggas that's living, trying to contend with the stress. Going through the test, no access, cause you oppressed. Slaves, niggas is dying off in waves. Living in dirt, now it's a grave. Niggas cross-talk through the crosswalk or the white chalk over the bodies of roads that you paid. America's killing us, saying they fearing us. Put the drugs in the hood, now my niggas delirious. Put a gun in my face, all because of my race. Click, boom, flash, put some Skittles and murder my ass. Like a sheep to the slaughter, heart beating harder and harder. Baptized with these words, never dipping in water. So now we pray to the Father. Give strength to Father that's looking for the marauder. That's fucking taking our daughters, nigga. It's wartime. Lights up, nigga, showtime. Got the green light on that ass, yeah, joke time. Either boot up, shut up, but get your ass up. Cause we ain't got time to be playing this all fucked up America. Heaven for the thief, hell for the slave. Reaping what you sow, meaning giving back what you gave for a clean slate. You try to imitate, you was always fake. America, every city, state, this is your fate. Whoa, 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 to America. Whoa, 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 to America. Whoa, 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 to America. Whoa, 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 to America.
Turn on the timeline, giving the rhythm to expose the intricacies of this vibe. Who am I ain't shit, but getting lit is a pastime. So in a minute, I'ma pass out. I hope you get it. If you didn't, you can crash flying. Kinda simple if you feel it, past your last line. But it will confuse a bad mind. A damn shame. That's the exact thing. Gonna get your ass fried. Bombs from the sky, rich devil lullaby. Then the nigga fly. Hope you got an alibi. Bombs from the sky, rich devil lullaby. Devil missiles high. I can see him from the parking lot. Never finna ball out. Devils finna fall out. All out warfare, nightmares in the big house. They murdered us for years and thinking shit was gonna turn around. Pride never learned. This motherfucker burns down. Yelled in them streets. Told them to breach. All of you angels bring woe to this beast. You rule for a time, but we play for keeps. I pray to my Father, bring woe to this beast. Remember them times we hung on them trees. All of you nations bow down to your knees. Remember them ships, they brought us some fleets. Fuck they Apollo, bring them the heat. Whoa, 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 to America. Whoa, whoa, to America. Whoa, 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 to America. Whoa, 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 to America.
God is going to destroy this empire, man. You about to see famine in this place. You think them fires in California is bad? That's just the beginning of what the Lord is about to do. Because you've been evil to the Lord's people. You've been wicked to the Most High's children, man. You've been destructive to the 12 tribes of Israel. Let me tell you something, black man. You got to put on your strength now, man. Put back on your strength and might, black man, because your day is coming. Your day is coming because the Lord is going to bring judgment on this earth.
Baby mama say you ain't shit, but really you want it. Been in jail for shit you ain't did, but nigga you want it. Bad as fuck, can't deny it, cause sister you want it. That nigga left you for a side chick, but really you want it. 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 You brought it. They had a plan up for you and me. They put dope in our communities. Had it plotted out to ruin our seed. Fucking up the unity.
Let's clap it up. Shalom, Cap.
Shalom, Yahshua.
Shalom. Yahshua Shabbat.
Right.
What's going on,
Hey, Shalom, Wapanya. Rock.
Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatah.
Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatah. What's going on? Let a Hebrew speak. Is that my man Amar? What's going on,
Puerto Rico.
All right, out of Puerto Rico. Okay, con. Hey, I had wanted to go. Me and Ash was talking about it. Wanted to go into, you know, a lot of things that the other tribes went through as we went through it. Like we went through a period after slavery, so-called after slavery, and I always wanted to know, what did the islands? How did coming out of slavery? How did it affect, you know, my brothers and sisters in the islands? When y'all came out of slavery, which is really not coming out of slavery, it's still the same oppression. You know what I mean?
You asking me or you asking him? So
yeah. Either or, you know.
Okay.
What's going on, Marah?
Shalom, Shabbat. Tawab, General, if I may.
All right. Who's that with you?
Officer 50, Abad Hayah.
Abad Hayah. Shalom, Yahshua huh? That's what's up.
It seemed like he had this connection, sir. So
okay, no sweat.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, because you know I'm a New Yorker, so the perspective I could only give of what I experienced out here. But when I dig into the history, what we was left with, just like many other brothers and sisters over here, was a great poverty, a great lacking of, you know what I'm saying? And I do have the information here, which I didn't know, but now I do. Back in the 1840s, 1848, we did have a black code, okay? And it goes in extensively into what was being played out during that time. There was a great period when the Taínos, they were the slaves in the islands. You know, they were the ones that were forced to be digging up the gold, the pearls, going into the caves to dig out all the precious whatevers, you know, until they decimated us. Well, that's so they thought, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, they left us impoverished. And then once they used and abused us, then they quote unquote decided not to keep us in that state. And with the import of slaves coming out of Africa, so they said was that they replaced us with the brothers that came off the ships. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We know today, though, that's false, because both parties, both groups, you know, Judah and Ephraim, Benjamin and Ephraim, and Manasseh and Simeon still in this captivity, still suffering the same oppression.
God.
And if I could, so can I read some of the article?
God.
All right. I'm gonna read it in English because it was completely in Spanish, so I had to do a translation. So it starts off the Black Code of Juan Prim, the year 1848, origins and outcome. The Black Code, it was written by this person by the name of Maria Dalmal Rodriguez Figueroa. And it said the Spanish military man Juan Prim y Prats was appointed Captain General of Puerto Rico in October 1847. His command lasted only until July 1848.
Right.
Negative criticism being the norm during his short stay in Puerto Rico. One of the most controversial measures implemented by the governor was his Black Code, which tried to prevent the rebellion of Puerto Rican slaves through harsh reprisals. Prim was 33 years old when he became governor of Puerto Rico and arrived with explicit orders from the Spanish crown to secure and defend precious parts of his dominion. For Prim, the most immediate threat to control over Puerto Rico was the possibility of a black rebellion. And I just wanted to quickly stop. We know also that there were some certain black rebellions that also happened here, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I can't really speak on that part because I believe brothers over here know more about that than I do.
Okay.
But it continues saying the Prince Black Code followed a long tradition of racist and repressive measures against the so-called African race in Puerto Rico. In 1812, Salvador Melendez and Bruna, the governor of Puerto Rico, prohibited the mere act of promoting the abolition of slavery. He also prohibited blacks from going in groups of more than 3, instituted excessive vigilance towards the population group by the civilian population, and denied them carrying arms. In 1812, the capture of escaped slaves by the ranchers was legalized. Legislation that had been enforced in Cuba, there seemed to be a fear of massive black rebellion or revolution. This was long before 1822, when in 1770, then Governor Miguel de Muesas instituted measures to control the entry of slaves into Puerto Rico. Considering all this, it's not surprising that in the 18th century, slaves in Puerto Rico were beginning to develop measures of freeing themselves from repressive owners, such as changing masters, asking for their freedom, damaging the fruits of the hacienda, escaping, among other actions. It says in relation to all the above, in 1837, this is October 1837, police forces were organized in Puerto Rico whose specific mission was to prevent a black rebellion. It is worth clarifying that by this time on the island, blacks and mulattoes were the majority, and Spain, always fearing a black revolution, had decided to promote the migration of people from the Canary Islands and Catalans to Puerto Rico to ensure that the crown did not lose its power because of massive slave uprising. Okay.
Right.
So and it's crazy because my father's mother, she was a descendant of those people that came out of the Canary Islands. You know, interesting.
Right.
But you know, who would have known? Because just, you know, we're all up in the Bronx. You don't know that, you know.
Right.
But as I'm reading, the narrative damn strongly resembles of what we're suffering today. What we're still suffering, as a matter of fact, you know, here and in the island. See, the thing that McGunn could tell you this. On the island, racism is extreme, but it's not spoken of, which is crazy.
Right.
You notice it everywhere. If you're driving down the main street and you look at the billboards, it's always, and nobody really pay attention to it because, you know, in Puerto Rico, we're so involved with other stuff. It's not like we pay attention to it. You know what I'm saying? It takes somebody like me or McGunn to actually look and be like, yeah, you know, this don't look right. But every time you see a billboard, it's always white face, you know. And then when it's a negative image, guess what face you see? A face like mine, a face like McGunn, a face like yours, you know what I'm saying? Oh,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead, McGunn.
You can get down.
Down, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, we hear you.
Salaki, sir. Definitely, you know, what the captain is telling you is completely the truth.
Right,
I would
right.
tell the captain about over here, the females over here, they paint the hair blonde. Most of them, they got the hair blonde.
Right. Like over here. Oh, he went out.
Yeah. So what he's trying to say, which is true, a lot of our sisters, whether it be of Taino or quote unquote African American, a lot of our sisters, you either see them dyeing their hair blonde. We call them pharmacy chicks because of they go to the pharmacy, they get the L'Oreals and whatever, the Miss Clara, and color their hair from what it was naturally to blonde or red hair. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that shows you it's the same narrative over here. Because sisters put on that weave, right? Because they want that long straight hair. It's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And this stems, as you know, sir, it stems out of slavery, stems out of oppression. You know what I'm saying?
Of course. Yeah. And it's funny because they got the thing called black codes here, right? And later on it became Jim Crow.
Right.
A.A. Marab. You got the first origin of Jim Crow? Where it come from?
If I could, so yeah, them Jim Crow laws, right? I know you're about to bring out. Them things started in the Caribbean, and then they brought them up over here.
Nah, I'm getting ready to hip you. It may have started there, but here it came from, the origin.
Right.
Drop it. Because a lot of black people, Israelites don't know how it got called Jim Crow. So go ahead and drop it.
Sir.
It should be the picture.
There we go. If I may, you want to read it out loud?
Yeah, please, brother.
This is from battlefields.org. The Jim Crow era. In 1877, the newly inaugurated President Rutherford B. Hayes removed the last armed troops from the former Confederate States of America. Since the end of the war, military outposts have been placed throughout the South to distribute aid, maintain order, and ensure that residents adhere to the newly implemented Reconstruction Amendments.
Now that's the purpose of it. Do you have the origin, where it come from?
So let me go back to it.
Let's start with that. Give them the origin of it.
Oh yeah,
as you can see, he's having some connection issues out there.
Yeah, that's cool. You could, whenever he can come in and out, or you could just have him stand down, us with a text, and tell him we'll get him in the next time. You know what I mean?
If I may, sir.
Because it comes with a Edomite. There you go. You see that, Ash? That's Jim Crow. He was a minstrel actor in the 1830s. Go ahead and read, officer.
Khan, sir. If I may, I'm gonna put the picture up and let the brother read, if I may, sir.
Khan, definitely.
Khan. Y'all should see the picture now. All right.
Khan, we see it.
Khan. There you go.
Jim Crow laws get their name from a character created and performed by the father of American minstrels, Thomas D. Rice, in the 1830s. Rice claimed that Jim Crow was modeled after a disabled black slave who sang and danced as he worked.
Right. Stop right there. The story goes, him and another guy named O'Connor, they was inside of a building or a house or whatever. It wasn't performing. And he happened to see this old cat, this old slave, old brother. And I think the old brother had worked, he was a slave, but he worked, with the stables and the horses. And so he would see this old guy singing a song. Go ahead, brother.
Finding the singing and dancing comical, he bought the clothes from the slave in order to be realistic in his portrayal and adopted the folk song Jump Jim Crow, which
that's what he was singing on stage, Jump Jim Crow. Because this same slave, while he working, he's singing the song by himself, not knowing these devils is in the window looking at him, and they would see him, and then finally they just came up with this idea. Go ahead. And they brought the clothes from the slave. Go ahead. Of course, from his master, more than likely. Go ahead.
Which was commonly sung by slaves for his act. To appear African American, Rice rubbed burnt cork on his face. The public loved Rice and his Jim Crow character. From the 1830s to the 1850s, Rice traveled around the country performing in minstrel shows. These shows consisted of comedic skits, songs, variety acts, and dancing, and commonly perpetuating negative stereotypes of African Americans for entertainment.
This was while we were still in slavery. Go ahead.
With Rice's popularity, minstrel shows became a leading form of entertainment until the Civil War and other performers began to copy Rice's character and styling.
They mocked us. Go ahead.
The practice of rubbing cork on his face became known as blackface and became a standard addition to the shows. Jim Crow became shorthand for African American.
You understand? You see that, Ash? In other words,
yes, sir.
They was labeling us as Jim Crow after the character that he did, being lazy, comical, being ignorant, illiterate, untrustworthy, not able to deal with integration. All this was that character. Go ahead.
And lasted well after Rice died, and minstrel shows lost their popularity. Jim Crow laws purposefully limited African Americans' ability to engage with the political and public spaces. The laws were passed with more frequency once Southern jurisdictions limited African American participation in local and national elections. In the 1880s, literacy tests became a requirement to vote and to register to vote in many Southern districts. While the Freedmen's Bureau and local charities attempted to bring education to rural and poor communities of color in the South, many inhabitants were still unable to pass these literacy tests. To help less educated white voters, grandfather clauses were established. If a citizen could prove that their grandfather was registered to vote, then they could register to vote regardless of if they could pass the literacy test. Since many African Americans' grandfathers were slaves and consequently unable to vote, then they could not utilize this loophole.
In other words, they had to prove that their grandfather was a voter, which was ridiculous. Besides that so-called civil rights that they gave us right after slavery, it only lasted for a couple of years, and they went back to the Jim Crow law. All right, that's the next article. Now go ahead, Ashapar.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out something about some of this black code in Puerto Rico as I'm reading. There's this little part that if I could bring out, right? it says, although Prim, which was that 33-year-old governor that Puerto Rico had, it says, although Prim's black code was literally an executive order because of its severity, it was one of the most criticized pieces of legislation of its time. Prim's order, published in May 31st, 1848, could be said to have touched most of the population in Puerto Rico at the time, since it was not limited to slaves, but to all people who had the minimum of blood Africana without exception. So that means even if a white person had somebody black in their tree, it would apply to them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In essence, for many, the code represented a call to war against anyone with African blood, as the side did not speak of slaves, but typified Prim's hatred of the African race. To understand the extension of Prim's code, it must be considered that by 1848 in Puerto Rico, 11.77% of the population were slaves, and another 40.55% were divided into free blacks and brown or brown. Prim's black code then represented an attack on the rights of half of Puerto Rican population.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So he goes on to say that, like for instance, Prim's code authorized slave owners to punish them with at will, especially in cases of attempted escape, as it served to prevent others from following their example. The penalties were excessive. For example, 5 years in prison was granted to any black person who insulted a white person. Furthermore, Prim wanted everyone with a connection to the black race to be judged by the court martial. The specifications of the order being very severe against any black persons who tried to fight white persons, regardless of the reason. Prim's black code not only punished blacks who attempted against whites, but also protected the property of the masters to avoid retaliation on the estates, as had happened in previous years. Right?
Right.
So those are some of the things that, like most Puerto Ricans today, we don't know this history because this is history that's been suppressed. They don't teach it in schools. They don't talk about it. It's like it's there, but nobody knows about it, you know?
Kind.
You know?
I feel you on this, right.
And it's like that's what I admire about here, because at least brothers touch on these type of subjects and keep it alive to make sure other brothers down the generations would know about this. But on the island, I don't know about the other islands, but I know in Puerto Rico, like I asked Magundi, he knew about this. He told me he never knew about this. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy.
Right. Because a lot of things is lost in history when it comes to us. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I remember we had a shirt with these little boys on there, right?
Right.
That they gave out up in Baltimore, you know, Commander Gen.YAHANNA and all that, right? And I didn't really look at the picture until I asked, I said, what is this? And it was a picture of like 7-year-old boys, but with the and then they explained to me, they said those are boys picking cotton, but they in the penitentiary. And I said, well, what kind of crimes could they commit? They was like, yo, trying to eat, you might steal something. They might catch you, you know, just hanging around. They'll lock you up for vagrancy. And then you got to remember, a lot of blacks at that time was trying to head north and leave some of the plantation, especially if you was a single young male. So the sheriffs, they would trap you, or a regular citizen will detain you and hold you or arrest you. They had the rights to arrest you, just like the same thing what Zimmerman tried to do to Trayvon Martin.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they would always keep the people on the plantation with them Jim Crow laws or the black codes.
Right.
Like they would lock you up. If you tried to leave, if you were sharecropping, and let's say, for instance, you couldn't pay your bill, but you tried to leave. Because when you sharecrop, you got your seeds from the master, and he was still called master. You got the seeds from him. You got all your farming tools from him. You was already on the plantation. So all the tools was his. The ground was his. The seeds was his. So if your crops didn't come in, or you had a bad year, you would wind up owing him for all those things. Plus, he would short you on the cotton that you did, produce.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you tried to leave, they would lock you up. Then you had another part of the black codes where each year you had to apply to work, or you would get locked up and work on the plantation anyway. And they didn't have to pay you anything. And they could keep you there as long as they want.
Right. It sounds like that today still, sir. It's a lot.
And Marah, I just want you to understand, Marah, I want you to have the brother get Leviticus, the 26th chapter, verse 19. Because you also got to think about this in sharecropping. Those curses of the Most High were still on us.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So if you trying to, plant and produce cotton, which you already was doing it, he got it?
Karawakan.
Go ahead and read it.
Karawakan. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 26 and verse 19. And I will break the pride of your power, and I will make your heaven as iron. And
the Lord is saying He's gonna make the heaven as iron, meaning He ain't gonna allow it to rain on your crops. Go ahead.
And your earth as brass.
Meaning He's gonna make it real hard, so you ain't gonna be able to produce what you're supposed to produce.
Right.
You got to remember during the time when they went out and they sought out the land, and they was in the land of Canaan, Joshua and Caleb, that they brought back a cluster of grapes. Them grapes were so heavy that 2 men had to carry them. Like the earth is supposed to yield fruit, but because of the curses, you know what I mean? You might find grapes like the size of a peanut.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that sharecropping, that wasn't for us anyway.
Right.
I mean, it was a method for us. My grandfather, hey, check this out. My grandfather was a sharecropper. On my mother's birth certificate, for his employment or skill, it said sharecropper. And I had asked my mom's, what is a sharecropper? Because I'm young at the time. I didn't know what it was. And then she tried to explain to me, and I think she did, but I didn't get it, you know what I mean, at the time, because I was so young. And it was later on in life that I understood what a sharecropper was.
Hey, Jen, can I bring out also one of the curses?
Sure.
Hey, can you get me Deuteronomy 12, 20 and 33?
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up.
You see that? And that goes into that sharecropping portion of it. You know what I'm saying? Like brothers work the land and he got somebody else benefiting off of that, which that should have been for us. Instead, like the gentleman was bringing up, they would have us in a situation where you was obligated to work the field, and they benefited off of everything, including what was your portion. You would get damn near nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because we're reading it right here. You know what I'm saying? Keep going.
And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
You see that?
Right.
And that's how it is. Even today, if I could, so the parallels with today is that what's it called today? Minimum wage, right? We're working massively long hours to make a minimum wage that's also taxed. And if you under child support, you're done.
Right, you're oppressed.
You're oppressed.
Right.
Right. I forgot where the scripture was with it. It also said that a man shall give his bread.
I'm thinking about that right now. I'm gonna get that.
You know what I mean? That's the child support scripture.
Yeah, come on. I'm gonna get you that right now, sir.
God. You know what I mean? Hey, Mariah, you want to bring out anything? You can.
Okay, Colonel McCall, sir. Wow.
You know, anybody, you know what I mean? Kodash, you still can drop it on us.
I buy.
Oh no, yeah. Amath. He also can bring it out too, either or. You know what I mean? Because I know we got some history in this. You know, right after slavery, which was another form of slavery, just as bad. And also, Marab, when you get a chance, I want you to bring out that Green Book. Did I send you that article on the Green Book?
I believe so, sir. I'm gonna take a look right now just to make sure. But I got everything that you sent me to the
Okay.
email.
All right.
Valley of Dry Bones.
Yeah, we can go into that.
Oh no, I see it. The Green Book, the Black Travelers.
Yeah.
Come on.
Now check this out. It was so wicked. The white man was such a bastard that they came up with a book. Go ahead and read it when you get it. Going through a little pain.
No sweat, sir. It's all good. I got it for you right now.
Because there's still a lot of history here in America, man.
You got it, I thought.
Colonel Khan. This is from www.history.com. This is from history.com. The Green Book, The Black Traveler's Guide to Jim Crow America. There will be a day sometime in the near future when this guide will not have to be published. That is when we as a race will have equal opportunities and privileges in the United States.
We can skip all that nonsense. That ain't going to happen because you still get stopped today. You know what I mean?
So you want it first published in Harlem, 1936?
Yeah. Right.
Oh my God. You got that, bud.
First published in 1936, the Green Book was the brainchild of a Harlem-based postal carrier named Victor Hugo Green. Like most African Americans in the mid-20th century, Green had grown weary of the discrimination blacks faced whenever they ventured outside their neighborhoods.
Right. Because when, like blacks came from the South to the North. So, of course, when you want to go see your people, you had to travel back South. So you still had the Ku Klux Klan. You still had white men trying to rape black women. They had to avoid being lynched or in prison. You know what I mean? Or beat up or whatever. Go ahead.
Rates of car ownership had exploded in the years before and after World War II. But the lure of the interstate was also fraught with risk for African Americans. Whites-only policies meant that black travelers often couldn't find safe places to eat and sleep. And so-called sundown towns, municipalities that banned blacks after dark, were scattered across the country.
So this brother came up with this book. You know what I mean? And he was giving this book or selling this book out just like you would do a map. You know what I mean? Like if you was in the hood, you going out of town, you'd be like, yo, I got to go get that Green Book. Just like somebody would go get a map back in the days before all the GPS. Go ahead.
Khan. As the foreword of the 1956 edition of the Green Book noted, the white traveler has had no difficulty in getting accommodations, but with the Negro, it has been different.
Go ahead.
Inspired by earlier books published for Jewish audiences, Green developed a guide to help Black Americans indulge in travel without fear. The first edition of his Green Book only covered hotels.
Stop right there. Now, what did he call it? Travel without fear. What do we call it today? Driving while black. Go ahead.
All right.
covered hotels and restaurants in the New York area, but he soon expanded its scope by gathering field reports from fellow postal carriers and offering cash payments to readers who sent in useful information. By the early 1940s, the Green Book boasted thousands of establishments from across the country, all of them either Black-owned or verified to be non-discriminatory.
And let me say this. We need a Green Book today. So if I go into a town, I can spend my money with my people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I won't spend my money with a store that's been oppressing that community. You know what I mean? Like if I go to Atlanta, Georgia, I should have a Green Book. So if I want to spend my money, I want to spend my money with a store that's Black-owned that support Black people.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just don't want to pop up in an Arab chicken joint when there's a Black chicken joint that I can go to.
Right.
Go ahead.
The 1949 guide encouraged hungry motorists passing through Denver to stop for a bite at the Dewdrop Inn. Those looking for a bar in the Atlanta area were told to try the Yeah Man, Sportsman Smoke Shop, or Butler's.
Hey, yo, do you listen? Are you listening to the name? Those for sure some Negro names. The Dewdrop Inn. What was that last one in Atlanta?
Yeah, man, Sportsman Smoke Shop.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Those are names that we need to be having, nowadays. Go ahead.
All right. In Richmond, Virginia, Rest a Bit was the go-to spot for a ladies' beauty parlor.
Go ahead. You see how that helped the economy?
Oh my God, sir.
You know what I mean? Go ahead.
If I may, sir, I just want to click on this book real quick.
Come on, go ahead.
Hey, Salaki, sir. The scripture I found, if you want the brother to read it for you.
Okay, what? Yeah.
It's Leviticus 26 and 26.
Okay, but let him finish this. After that, we'll go back to that scripture.
Okay. I can read while you find it. So what was the scripture?
26 and 26.
26 and 25. I'm gonna keep on reading for you, sir.
Okay, cut.
You got it.
Okay. What?
Oh, go ahead.
The Green Book's listings were organized by state and city, with the vast majority located in major metropolises such as Chicago and Detroit. More remote places had fewer options. Alaska only had a lone entry in the 1960 guide. But even in cities with no Black-friendly hotels, the book often listed the addresses of homeowners who were willing to rent rooms. In 1954,
you see that you know what I mean? Like, let's say a woman owns a house and she's a widow, and she got all them rooms available. Black people can come in, pay her a little something, and be safe in the Black hood. You know what I mean? The Black neighborhood.
Hey, sir, if I could, doesn't that sound familiar today? It's called Airbnb.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll give you another one, Ash. Lackawanna Blues.
Yeah.
Right.
She was another sister that opened up her house, but that's how we did it. You know what I mean?
Come on. Sorry, sir. I think you went out on your sound.
Oh, I did?
Oh, no. I'm watching my phone feed too, just to make sure it's a lot.
God. The water.
I am
the water.
You want us to keep going?
Yeah.
In 1954, it suggested that visitors to tiny Roswell, New Mexico, should stay at the home of a Miss Mary Collins. The Green Book wasn't the only handbook for black travelers. Another publication called Travel Guide was marketed with tagline vacation and recreation without humiliation. But it was by far the most popular. Thanks to a sponsorship deal with Standard Oil, the Green Book was available for purchase at Esso gas stations across the country. Though largely unknown to whites, it eventually sold upwards of 15,000 copies per year and was widely used by black business travelers and vacationers alike. In his memoir, A Colored Man's Journey Through 20th Century Segregated America, Earl Hutchinson Sr. described purchasing a copy in preparation for a road trip he and his wife took from Chicago to California. The Green Book was the Bible of every Negro highway traveler in the 1950s and early 1960s. He wrote, "You literally didn't dare leave home without it."
Wow.
He said, like it, sir. I got to step off real quick for a second. I'll be right back.
God. Wow. Hey, give me the you can give me the scripture now. On the child support scripture.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 26 and verse 26. And when I have broken the staff of your bread, 10 women shall bake your bread in one oven, and they shall deliver you your bread again by weight. And ye shall eat and not be satisfied.
Right. Read it one more time.
And when I have broken the staff of your bread.
Right. He's going to break the staff of your bread. Go ahead. And you can equate bread exactly with money. Go ahead.
10 women shall bake your bread in one oven.
Right. They going to want of your bread. He going to pay me some child support. Go ahead.
Right. And they shall deliver you your bread again by weight. And
they going to give you your bread, and they going to decide how much bread you going to get. Go ahead. Right. And that's just what the courts do. They find out how much bread you got, and the woman tell them how many children they have and what's their spending costs. And then now they give you a piece of your own bread. Go ahead.
Right. And ye shall eat and not be satisfied.
Right.
If I may, sir.
Come on with it.
If I may, it was a story that Commander General Yohanna brought out a few years back. If you remember on the back then it was the grill. What a brother said about I believe he killed his baby mom and went on a run. He said she could suck a penny through a straw or something like that.
Right.
It was in a former show because he was saying that he killed her, and when they finally caught up to him, they interrogated him. And he was saying why he killed her because she was getting the child support and he couldn't afford it. And that's when he went in to say, like, I should have never got with her. My homies told me about what she could do and all this other stuff. But that's so heavy because
that's crazy.
Like brothers can't even handle it nowadays. Like, you know, I mean, it ain't the first time you heard about somebody trying to kill their baby mom or trying to set her up, you know,
right.
You know, just because of the child support, or brothers not being able to feed themselves, having to get a second job, or they start hustling on the side of their job because, you know, they can't afford that child support.
Right.
If I may, sir.
Gun, you right. Because I know plenty of brothers in the past that sold, you know, drugs to pay that child support, so the child support wouldn't affect their main income. You know what I mean? So I understand that.
Cut on con, sir.
Go ahead, sir. No, go ahead, come with it.
If I may, sir, too, even the scripture that talks about a sister, how her eyes shall be evil towards her man, and a husband, how his eyes shall be evil towards his kids, and he gonna leave his kids. These are all curses, man. Like all of these is curses from the Most High, man. From us, you know, from us not serving the Lord. You know what I mean? Like the Lord ran it down to us, and we took it lightly, man. And now we suffering. If I may,
right, right, and that's crazy because that's with all the tribes. You know what I mean?
Come on, God.
I mean, it's the same thing. You know, the same. You know what I mean? And that slavery, and after slavery, man, it was a lot of riots. Give me the one of the ones just to go through the list of all the riots. I think I sent it to you. The Valley of Dry Bones.
Come on, God, sir. You want
it has to.
You want the first one, second, or third?
You have to open one of them up. I wish I had that book there. Whatever's up. The one I sent you just recently.
All right, the
most recent one. Right.
Recent one. Okay, Khan Khan. All right. Okay, Khan Khan.
I believe it should be that.
It's like three different pictures.
Right. Khan.
All right. So I'm going to start with. Let me see.
And I'm gonna say this. This is why I always mention I hated that movie, The Color Purple, because it made it sound like black men were so weak. You know what I mean? During that time, and that is, you know, far from the truth. So far, very far from the truth. You know what I mean? I hate that movie. That was the worst movie of all times. And I was pissed that this dude had me watching. You know, of course I was much younger, you know, smoking weed, and he said, let's watch this movie I got. And I, you know, VHS tape, you know what I mean? This is back in the 80s. Go ahead, brother.
Khan, sir. I'm trying to.
So can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, most of
I gotta make it just a tad bit smaller. Oh, all right, yeah. All right, okay. If I may,
Is it too small to read?
Nah, I can, but it's gonna cut some of it off. My boss said he can read it, but I'm gonna try to make it big for everybody to see out there. So we might. So I'm gonna switch the screen so they ain't gonna be able to see us, but they will be able to see the page.
Go ahead.
Khan. All right, Abba, you got it.
This is from the book of The Valley of Dry Bones by Rudolph. Go ahead, read it.
Khan. Secret Confederate Army personnel was organized by the Confederate General Forrest.
Meaning this, that the Confederate, once they lost the war, they basically became still the Confederate Army, but under the Ku Klux Klan in secret.
His secret army units were called the Ku Klux Klan.
So black people were actually fighting soldiers. Go ahead.
1865. A national conference of the Ku Klux Klan met in Nashville, Tennessee in 1867. There were 3 race riots in Louisiana between September and October of 1868.
A riot already. They don't never talk about these riots right after slavery and all the uprising that happened during slavery. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of cities in the 50s and the 40s that had riots. But this is right after slavery. All right, Reconstruction. Go ahead.
Governor Hold'em proclaimed a state of rebellion in parts of North Carolina in 1870.
And you know who's the one he's saying rebellion? He's talking about the black people. Go ahead.
On March 6, 1871, a race riot took place in Meriden, Mississippi.
Yeah, Meridian,
Mississippi. So
no sweat. Keep reading.
Whites massacred more than 65 blacks at Grant Parish, Louisiana in 1873. Ku Klux Klansmen took 16 blacks from a jail in Tennessee and shot them in 1874.
Keep on.
Sir, I'm gonna go to the next page now, sir.
No sweat.
It's gonna take 2 seconds to lock.
Hey, okay. No sweat. And then and you see how they was just murdering us off for anything. Like during that time, you couldn't own a gun, you couldn't go hunting, you couldn't go fishing. Like if you got caught fishing, you was likely to go to jail. Like that's a damn shame. Like the white man, he surely is the devil.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like how you gonna stop somebody from fishing for food? Like you a monster.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Ready up.
Come. In a race riot in Vicksburg, Mississippi, 35 blacks were killed in 1874. The governor of Mississippi declared martial law after rioters killed several black political representatives in 1874.
And those representatives was actual United States representatives. Because what a lot of black people don't know, and it's not being actually taught, was you had a lot of representatives and mayors, you know what I mean, right after or during Reconstruction. And you had black sheriffs, which really didn't mean the damn thing, but that's how many United States representatives got killed. Can you imagine if someone killed the same amount of representatives today? That would be like headline news. Crazy. Go ahead.
More than 10 blacks were killed in race riots in Yazoo City, Mississippi in 1875. More than 20 blacks were killed in race riots in Clinton, Mississippi in 1875. A request for federal troops to protect the rights of black voters in Mississippi was rejected in 1875. 5 blacks.
But do you notice that you had the right to vote? Which didn't really mean nothing, and it doesn't mean nothing today.
Right.
And people kill me with this. They struggled in the 60s to vote and all that, but they don't ever understand what happened during Reconstruction. Like they had the Civil Rights Bill during Reconstruction.
Right.
That wasn't nothing new, but because we're not taught our history properly, because we integrated our school system, now they teach us what they want us to know.
Right.
Go ahead. And let me say this. And me and Mashak, we was talking, right, Captain Mashak. And we was talking, and he brought out something heavy on how the school system in America today is like you take a 6-year-old, right, and you put 26-year-olds in a classroom. Now, they trying to learn and they trying to get to know the teacher. Within 1 year's time, they trying to adjust to this teacher. Then the next year, they move them to another different teacher. Now, this child at 7 years old, he's trying to adjust to a teacher. You know what I mean? And the teacher really don't know, where he's lacking at. Right. But going back in those days, after slavery, when we did have a school system, the classroom was with everybody. So the teacher knew everybody, knew everybody's family, and can work with the children because they have that child for so many years. And they would know gifted children. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that just brought like school system is like their school system is garbage. It's trash. We need to go back to the old way what we was doing because you get to know a person. Just like if a brother come into class for 5 years, you get to know him, you get to know what he's going through, you get to know what he needs help with. You know what I mean? Just like if a brother come into the I.S.U.P.K school, he's there so long that you get to know this brother is struggling with this. This sister is struggling with that. Right. The school system should be like just the same way. A teacher should stay with that group of children, and it will show that if this teacher is actually really, teaching the child through the child's progression, academically. You know what I mean? You ever have a change of boss every year? Like you on a job and you got to adjust to a foreman 1 year, then the next year they send another foreman over you. You understand what I'm saying? Like you may not like this cat and like the other foreman. You know what I mean? I mean, you got to understand what a little child is going through in this school system, and they want to know why we failing. We learn differently. We would like to get to know, know what I mean, know the teacher. You can't know a teacher in 1 year, and then you get another teacher the next year, and by the time you get to high school, you done had maybe 20 teachers.
Right.
And none of them really know you. And you don't really know them. All you know is either, oh, he was all right, I couldn't stand her. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
It's a lot of sweating. I remember back in those days when we were going to school, a lot of our teachers were really offhand with us because they just didn't really give a damn about nobody. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was like part of policy.
Yeah, I mean, I went through the same thing. You know what I mean? I went through the same exact thing. All of us did. And that's what I'm saying. The school system sucks. It's you know what I mean? It's horrible.
Right.
You know what I mean? You damn near got to coach and be with your child and make sure that they doing this, doing that, learning. But before then, that teacher did all that.
Right.
You know what I mean? That teacher had that child for 3, 4, 5 years.
Cool.
And that teacher could give that child real advice. Like how back in the days that they can give you advice and the teacher say, well, you know what, you need to do this. But he only known you a year.
Right.
You might be capable of being an engineer. Like sometimes it's good to get advice from teachers to make a good career move. College ain't for everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? College is not for everybody. Go ahead.
Kokan. The racial conflict got so bad that President Grant sent federal troops to Florida and South Carolina in 1876. All federal troops were withdrawn from the South to give the white races a complete free hand to deal with the blacks in 1877. The traitor, President Hayes, appointed Frederick Douglass U.S. Marshal for Washington, D.C. in 1877. This position rendered Douglass ineffective and was equal to making him a Boy Scout.
Y'all got that. Meaning being a U.S. Marshals was useless.
Right.
But today, the U.S. Marshals, they come looking for you. Listen, they coming for you. You know what I mean? They something nowadays. But when they handed it to him and made it up, it was nothing. Just a title. Go ahead.
Karokan. 17. Because of economic and political repression, blacks fled the South in 1879. In Danville, Virginia, a race riot broke out in 1884. More than 18 blacks were killed in Carrollton, Mississippi in 1886. Wilmington, North Carolina was the place where 8 blacks were killed in 1898. In New Orleans, whites burned a black school and 30 homes in 1900. The Supreme Court upheld the Alabama Constitution, which disenfranchised blacks in 1903.
Yeah, you couldn't own guns and stuff like that. But they was able to attain them and they fought back, but they got slaughtered. You know what I mean? Come on, Ash. I know you got some
Well, Salaki, no, Salaki. I was just reading. I found this book online that breaks down the black codes for every section. I'm gonna read something to you out of Louisiana, the black code out of Louisiana. Check this out, gentlemen. This is crazy, right? This is called the second code, right? The first code was out of Santo Domingo, which is over there in the Dominican Republic. But I'm gonna go into the second code. Louisiana, 1769. Spain received Louisiana in 1766 from the King of France as compensation for its losses in the wars with Great Britain. Since 1724, slaves in French Louisiana have been under rule of a version of Code Noir, which is French for black. In 1769, the Spanish governor of Louisiana, Alejandro O'Reilly, ordered the French code to be observed with exactitude and translated into Spanish. The code was in place until 1800, when Spain lost Louisiana. Curiously, it was the only one of the Spanish black codes that was officially issued. The code was an important political instrument in controlling the enormous slave population, despite the fact that it contradicted much of the Spanish legislation in the Indies. For example, the first article ordered the displacement and extermination of Native Americans in Louisiana, who was declared enemy of the Christian faith. This proclamation was inconsistent with the papal orders, which had justified Spanish colonizations through the evangelization of Native Americans.
Right.
You see that? So even the Pope was in favor of exterminating natives. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because them natives was bucking. You know what I mean? They wasn't, they wasn't brought over here as slaves. You know what I mean? Stripped of everything. Right. So they bucking. You put a rifle in their hand, they ready to fight. You know, it's their land. Go ahead.
And then he gives some more right here. I wanted to read if I could. It says the code was an important political instrument. Okay, I read that. The Louisiana Code was also declared that slaves should be considered material goods or property that can be inherited or distributed. This law contradicted the principle of the siete partidas, which means 7 parties, which deemed that some persons could rightfully be enslaved even if they had been born free. Another difference was that the Louisiana Code did not allow slaves to own property, buy their freedoms, or be free without official consent. Sounds like the same thing we read from Puerto Rico. In 1526, Spanish cedula, however, had permitted slaves to obtain manumission by buying their freedom, and the seven partidas had allowed owners to free their slaves voluntarily under certain conditions. Well, it's a lot to read there. I just wanted to, just to show
Right.
some of the codes. But definitely, I'm gonna go through this book. I'm gonna see if I can keep it because we got a lot of these codes to break down, and maybe we can bring it out at a later date. But
Right.
for sure, you got a lot of stuff that we can touch on there. Stuff that outside of America you would not have known had it not been for the truth that we can bring these things up.
Right. Yeah, that's it's funny because like there's a couple of things that irritate me, like I mean that there's a lot of things that irritate me because of the love of of our people. You know what I mean? But what kills me about with heathens, how heathens always, or and in the media, like on television, when you hear about, like I was watching something with the Olympics, right? They always interview somebody from another nation who was born here, but their parents are somewhere else. They traveled here as a child, and now they made the Olympics. And one of the things that they always say is, "Yeah, my parents came here with nothing." And I always say, like, what the hell do you think my people came here with?
Right.
And we had to build this nation. You know what I mean? Like when people say that to me, I say like, oh, so I came over here with something? You know what I mean? And another thing I find certain black people that I be hearing, like, on the media, talk about my ancestors owned slaves. I'm like, yo, if your ancestors owned slaves, you know what I mean? Like, that ain't something to boast about.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because 7 years, your ancestors were supposed to let them go free.
Yep.
Right.
You know what I mean? You were supposed to, like, that ain't something to boast about.
Right.
Now, I can understand the way the Native American Indians, they had the decency to not make us slaves in most cases.
Right.
The majority of the cases, I have very rarely heard a case where Native American Indians were actually dogging us out. In every incident, in all the books that I've read, they was making us, princes and chiefs.
And chiefs, right.
You know what I mean? So it's crazy.
If I could too, as the same narrative with a lot of these Latinos. Oh, I came here with nothing, and we have to work hard to get this and this and that. And disregarding all the history of what they suffered in their own country and what people suffered here too as well.
Right.
That's another thing I love, and I hate to say it, but you can't cover the sky with one hand. But a lot of Latinos tend to forget, because I hear it. All these black people, they so lazy, and that pisses me off. Because how you gonna say that about black folks? You don't know what they went through in this country. So if they want to be lazy, let them be lazy, because they built this damn country alongside your forefathers. What the hell are you talking about? It does hurt me.
Right. And let's really be honest. Black people really don't want to have no taskmaster over them.
That's right.
Black people want to own their own thing, man.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, black people, and that's why a lot of, like, General Sharma, he wants to be his own boss, do his own thing.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And he has the means and ways to do it, which I definitely always applaud him for that.
Yep.
Same thing with Commander General Yahanna. There's a few brothers in here that do their own thing. That's why I like the idea of brothers driving Uber and Uber Eats.
Yep.
Being your own boss per se. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Like a lot of, and let me tell you something. A lot of Hispanic brothers, and you know this, Osh, in here in the DC area, you know what I mean, and up in the cities, they ain't trying to always work for white people. They'll start their own construction and home improvement business on their own.
Yep.
And they got, you know what I mean? And a lot of times they realize that I'm doing all the work and he's just getting the jobs. I can do both.
Yep. If I could, General, you remember last year when this happened at a warehouse, I believe, and it came out throughout the social media. It was a Judite brother filming I.S.U.P.K, all of them just walking off.
That was bad. That was bad. That was bad.
I applaud them I.S.U.P.K for doing that. Because that day, Esau was like, what we do. But the brother was right for saying, this is what black people need to do. Black people need to do the same thing that these brothers are doing.
Hey, right. You know what I mean? Like, he supported what they was doing. And listen, and he was laughing because he knew it was a strike against white supremacy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And they did it, man. That was so wonderful. I watched that video over and over.
Yeah, come. The Spanish brother was like, I forgot, I didn't hear what he said, but I'm gonna go watch what he said to the brother that held the camera. He said something there, but I gotta go listen to. But the point being is that what you're saying, like I mean, a lot of us, you know, like that. It's crazy because a lot of us that are undocumented, right, in this country, like a lot of times we forced to do these things. You know what I'm saying? Which makes sense because those of us that get citizenship and then get a legal job realize, damn, I was better off owning my own painting company and owning my own, you know, lawn mowing company, you know, or the landscaping company, so on and so forth. You know?
Yeah. A lot of contractors wasn't paying them either. A lot of white and black, some blacks. Not a lot of blacks, but a lot of whites. But blacks started doing it after the whites was doing it. They would work them and didn't pay them.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Which is evil as hell. But there been contractors that tried to do me the same way.
Yeah.
You know, but they found out totally different. I wasn't going.
Yeah. I done had Latinos do that to me. I'm being a Latino myself. It pissed me off because you feel like, well, damn, nigga, I'm like you. Yeah, but you realize, it's survival of America.
Yeah, it's dirty. You know what I mean? It's a real dirty game. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, man. Anything else, brothers, I want to bring out? Mariah?
Sir.
Come on with it, Mariah. You know you can jump in at any time, Mariah.
Sir. Can you give me Psalms 137 and 3? I want to pull these scripture for what y'all was just saying, sir. Like it's so heavy that you know they expect Black and Hispanic and First Nations men and women to just jump up and down and do whatever the hell they say and be happy about it and come to work with a smile on our face and just ready to serve and you know what I mean, like Popeye with the spinach, just come in all strong and ready to work and do whatever they want us to do. But you know what I mean, if I could, you got that, Bob.
Khan. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 137 and verse 3. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion.
Right.
Sir, just like what you brought out about Jim Crow, like they want you to just be some jumping up and down, laughing and singing, you know, disabled. They love to put that in there. The fact that we are disabled in America, you know what I mean? Like we ain't our full self. We're not, you know, operating the way we should be. You know what I mean? We got sicknesses and we suffering. You know what I mean? We 100% in America. And yet they still expect us to jump up and down and sing for them and come to work happy and try to get the promotion that they know they're going to deny us for.
Right.
Work hard to ask for the raise that we are never getting. Come to work every day and not be able to get the days off, even when you need it, even when you come to work every day, even when you show up on the days that you are off. They fire us on the day off.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
And they expect us to really, and you on child support while you're doing it.
Right.
And then go ahead,
Barad, then they tell you, why you mad?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
And what you're saying is so heavy because they brought that out on the show Saturday on how the sister said that she was going through, what is it, the twist? Her name is Bale, the gymnastics chick.
Oh, come.
Yeah, and how they expected her to go ahead and continue to perform when she can, literally snap her neck or land on her neck. You know what I mean? Like they want you, work hard and do all this training. And then when something happens to you medically or mentally, and you want to back out, they want to give you a whole lot of beef. And then they'll hold that against her forever.
Come on, sir.
And all that just for the glory of America. That's all that boils down to.
Right. And then that same thing with the track, the sister that was running track, she got pregnant. You know what I mean? They expect her to represent America and get rid of the baby.
Yep.
Mariah, you right.
If I may, sir, I actually have that video of our Hispanic brothers walking off of that slavery.
Play it, please. We ain't saw that in a long time.
Yeah.
And audience, you got to excuse me if I'm starting laughing.
Come on, sir. I'll put it up right now. All right, cool. Here we go. It should play right about now. Let me switch it over.
Amigos, get about this motherfucker. Y'all got him fucked up. Get him. They sent a couple of them home. They all packed their shit up and shut this motherfucker down. Nigga, who y'all think y'all playing with? Mexico, this is what black people need to be on, man. I swear to God, I love this shit. They are packing they shit up and shutting this motherfucker, on my mama, all that shit. They are not bullshitting. They backed up, yeah, I see. Them motherfuckers packed up and dipped. They thought they was gonna play with these amigos, and they said, "Oh yeah, we rise together, homie." And they leave, and they not bullshit. They saying, "Man, look at this, man. They shut this big motherfucker down today, man. We all going home, man. The SAs, look, ain't no grinding, cutting, welding. This motherfucker dead ass right. The messages shut this motherfucker down, nigga. Said, fuck you, bitch." And Willie and Billy, I swear to God, they got here geeked up. Oh, my Malcolm X shit. Oh, my mama, nigga. Fuck the bullshit, nigga. Look at this. They shut this bitch down. They pissed them off, nigga. They said, fuck you, we out. We not working no more today. Kiss my ass, nigga. I'll let y'all tomorrow. On my mama. That's crazy. Look, ain't nobody here. We're just cleaning up. We're going home. It's over, Robert. Hey, nigga. Fuck it. Go to the crib. Go to the casa. I thought I was let me in. You swear to God.
Yo, that. hey, Barad. Hey, please send me that video, man. I don't care whether it's through Facebook or Duncan Watts or my email. Please send me that video. Oh my God.
Cut on cars.
Yo.
If I may, sir, like the brother, like okay, things like this will make us come together. Like contrary to Christianity, Christianity is like, all right, if we get beat in the head and we hold hands, then we gonna be together. But
Right.
really, it's like once we stand up, we'll start coming together. You're like, F it, I'm going home. I'm riding with the essays. Like
Right.
that's how you unite. Like I.S.U.P.K is a perfect example of how to righteously come together. Like you can't come together getting beat in the head, man. Like cause just like Captain Ashapari brought out, our Hispanic brothers might say things about our brothers that's black and Haitian, and so do our black and Haitian brothers and Jamaican brothers say things about our Hispanic brothers and our First Nation brothers, but they all Christians, all of them. Which means Christianity gonna divide you. Like you know, and we all getting beat in the head by the same oppressor, and we hate each other. But once we finally decide to stand up, we'll start to see that we all together in the same suffering, and that will make us come together the same way it does in I.S.U.P.K.
Right.
Hey, General, you can imagine how many millions that they lost in this moment.
Yep.
Billions of dollars is one day's worth of production. But imagine if we did this everywhere.
Yeah.
You think they will pass a martial law because we decided not to work for Massa?
Yeah. And it's funny because he said they let a few of them go, right? And how many did he say they let go? 6 or 8?
He said few of them.
How many?
He said few of them.
And look how many left, just over a few of them.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yo, that is unity.
Right.
Like they get rid of 3 of them unjustly or whatever, they just let them go. And the whole warehouse, there had to have been about 50, maybe 100 workers in there. And they left because they got rid of a few of them.
And General, if I could
and you know what's so crazy? That the Latinos know that they can afford those few that they got rid of. And guess what? They probably said to themselves, who gonna be next?
Right.
Hey, General, if I could too, and that shows you that there's love among them to even do that. You cut some of our own, we all gonna walk away because you know they love them. The brothers who fired, the love was so strong and so great for them brothers. They said, you know, we all going. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because they see the struggle. They see the struggle in their people, and they respect that, and they respect their people. You know what I mean? Because them few that left, how are they now gonna pay rent?
Right.
And they cared about, the situation that they would be in.
Right.
And that's the problem with Judah and Ephraim here in America. You know what I'm saying? Like we lost that. I remember years ago I told you, Ash, in Puerto Rico in the Bronx, they had a construction, not union, but a construction organization for only blacks and Puerto Ricans in the 80s. And they would roll up at construction sites. And when they got to the construction sites, they would be protesting, but here's what they would do. They would go inside, they would look at the construction site and they don't see no Puerto Ricans or blacks there. They would go on the site, protest, and start unplugging all the tools and equipment.
I remember that.
And one of the requirements, is, are you willing to fight? You know what I'm saying?
Good night. Most High Christ.
And it was nothing but blacks and Puerto Ricans. Because New York City was so racist, and the Italians and the Irish and the Polish, they would keep us out. You know what I mean? They would keep us out of those unions.
Yep. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. Like, man. I tell you, I grew a block, not in my teenage years, down from that block where they did that film of A Bronx Tale right there, 187 and Arthur Avenue.
Yeah.
You know, and it was always told to me when I went into that area,
Be careful.
try not to be off of 187 and Arthur Avenue. They always used to tell me. I'd be like,
That,
why?
hey, Ox. That was the green book.
They would tell us that constantly. Try not to be on 187 and Arthur Avenue because them Italians, they don't like Puerto Ricans. But nobody even fed me in those days as to why. Nobody even told me. Now, the truth, I understand and knows why, you know. Back in those days, I would have loved to have known in my early teens why I can't go. And my dumb ass still went. Thank the Lord I ain't never got jumped there.
Exactly.
I still went regardless because I was like, I don't know why. You know?
Yo, I got into some scrap, but they was older white dudes. And I was up in Parkchester.
Right.
And certain parts past Parkchester I knew was off limits because I knew blacks that lived in that area and they knew it was off limits. Like Pelham Bay. You know what I mean?
Right.
Up in Pelham Bay area was definitely off limits.
Yep.
Like you wasn't getting jumped by 4 or 5 white people. It would be like 20 chasing you.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I remember you used to hearing about them. A lot of them were Irish people. They had some Italians up there too, but a lot of them were Irish.
Yeah. So that's crazy, man.
And to show you, sir, if I could too, because a lot of people focus on the deep racism in the South, which is not a lie, it's totally true. But there was deep racism up in the North too that don't really get spoken of.
Yeah, they had the black codes up north too.
Yeah.
Or the Jim Crow law. You know what I mean? And the only reason why it don't get mentioned of is because black people was actually segregated up here. They only worked downtown.
Right.
You know what I mean? They didn't have to go downtown. They wasn't hanging downtown. They hung out in Harlem.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like black people built Harlem up so much that white people would try to come up there, of course, for the prostitution, but also for the talent that was up there in them different clubs.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Going there. Like I tell you all the time, it was an older dude. He said, "Wanted to go into white restaurant." He said, "Because black people had better food." He said, "Who do you think was cooking the food in the White Houses?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he said it really wasn't about what Martin Luther King was talking about. We just wanted to get the same wage. You know what I mean? All that was really about the same wages or a better wage for what they was doing.
Come. Mesa, we still got the rest of the list if you want it, or you want to do something else, sir.
Yeah, continue that list. But this is
the tribal.
Khan, so I'm putting the list up now.
I'm trying to go into a little bit more books every now and then. You know what I mean?
Come.
Hey, we got General Kabbalah off in the chat, sir.
No sweat. Shalom, Q. General Kabbalah. Shalom.
All right, you got it. We'll go back to the top.
Okay. Start 23. Khan. Martial law was proclaimed in Atlanta, Georgia, after 10 blacks and 2 whites were killed in 1906. A race riot raged for 5 days in Springfield, Illinois. The Ku Klux Klan spread like wildfire in the South and the West. The estimated membership in 1915 was 4 million.
Damn.
Race riots took place in Philadelphia. 4 were killed. In Chester, Pennsylvania, 5 were killed. Both events took place in 1918. The governor of Oklahoma said that a state of rebellion and insurrection existed because of the Klan activities. As a result of these activities, he proclaimed martial law in 1923. In Washington, D.C., 25,000 hooded Klansmen paraded to demonstrate their ideology and strength in 1925. This is only a partial list of riots and murders committed against Black people, and it does not include the individual cases of murders, which numbered in the thousands. Furthermore, I'm aware of the fact that numerous race riots and murders transpired after the year 1925.
So go ahead.
I could say when you read in verse 28, right? The hooded Klansmen paraded to demonstrate their ideology and strength in 1925. Doesn't it sound like January 6th?
Right. Yeah.
Right. God.
Yeah. Definitely. Sure. You're right. Hey, I just want to read a little something off this book on page 37. Because a lot of people always think it wasn't like that up in the North, but the North was just as bad because they was in cohort with the South. The whole ideal, the whole beef of the North and the South, it was to take over the South so that they can have industries and put taxes on it. It had nothing to do with slavery. It's just that the North saw, like everyone knows, the South was getting out. And it was all about money. It was all over economics of putting the power back up north. That's all it was. You know.
All right.
I'm gonna try to find that, but you can go ahead, Ash.
If I could too, you made that statement. You know what popped in my head? So much. I thought this was the United States.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Apparently, by those actions, it's not united. It sounds like more. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist because that's not what I'm trying to get at. But it sounds like more America is just a corporation, and that's all it is.
Right.
With its cogs and wheels as being the Blacks and Latinos that make this machine move forward.
Right. God. I'm trying to find this real quick, but oh, here you go, right here on page 27. What did the Republican Party gain from the war? 1, the control of the federal government. 2, the building up of stronger industries in the North. 3, an increase in tariff against foreign competition, which also permitted northern industry access to southern raw materials. 4, the northern capitalists moving into the South to begin the process of industrialization. And 5, the northern capitalists gaining of poor whites and Blacks as political allies, which they voted to stay in power. With the political support of the workers, farmers, middle class, poor whites, and Blacks, the Republican Party was able to win the national elections of 1968 and 1872, and the close election of 1876 and 1880. It had nothing to do with freeing slaves.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or they wouldn't allow, the black codes or the Jim Crow to be in effect.
Right.
Those codes kept us on the plantation. You know what I mean? If you leave the plantation, they would lock you up and put you back on those plantations. But you was in, you was more in a prison house.
Hey, sir,
Come on with it.
The author of that, he made a good points in bringing out that information. But you notice also, because I'm hearing what was really about, but also even in the term poor whites and blacks, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
In the order he put it, poor white, like even showing that their poor whites is better than us.
Of course.
You know.
Of course.
But that's all it ever boiled down to is money. Money, you know.
Right.
God.
You know, like to them, you know, it's crazy talking. Even today, it's that. It's just money and who gets affected by the money. The has and have nots. You know what I'm saying? Who's at the bottom?
Right.
Who's at the top? And unfortunately, the means to implement all that is the enslavement of God's people.
Right.
God. I'm gonna read another thing. All right, on page 37, Ash and Marah. All of this northern investment in the South, there was great demand for cheap labor. It was really found among the poor whites and the blacks. Revealed to us that the Northerners, in collaboration with the Southerners, subjected the blacks to the most brutal exploitation. Perlow made this point clear about the Northern capitalists and the Southerners. Their economic cost was to prevent the Negro people from getting the land, to preserve the plantation system in a new setup, sharecropping and chain gang slavery. They went hand in hand, sharecropping and chain gang slavery. In which the Northern bankers, merchants, and manufacturers derived the lion's share of the profits from its operations. The landowners as junior partners and overseers. This was the same system that operated during the slavery period. What we must understand is that sharecropping was slavery. They only changed the word and the legal explanation attached to them. The new masters of the South transformed the ex-slaves into half-free servants, as sharecropping became a form of slavery which will be dealt with more in detail later. Chain gang labor also became a form of slavery, which women, young girls, young boys, and men, they were, victims of the chain gang slavery. All right? I'm going to continue to read. The chain gangs were the wretched institution of the Southern society. They served two primary purposes. One, they were disciplinary institutions formed to break the spirit of young black boys and men, to teach them to be docile. Two, many young black men were arrested, convicted on the least excuse, then hired out to unscrupulous people and companies to be worked in fields, camps, mines, and railroads from sunrise to sunup. Many companies made contracts with the local governments to work these young blacks, and some amassed great wealth from chain gang. Leron Bennett gives descriptive details of chain gang life. The history on Leron Bennett is he's the one that made For the Mayflower.
Somebody say that again, sir? He's the one that made what?
He's the one who wrote Before the Mayflower.
Oh, okay.
But he's pulling this out of his book. With chains welded to their bodies, waist deep, sometimes in mud and slime, convicts toiled day in and day out. Fortunes was founded in their misery.
Okay.
Their quarters was unbelievable filthy, vermin. Investigators reported crawled over their clothes and their bodies. And it was not unusual for a female prisoner and a male prisoner to be chained to a bed at night. Fletcher Green, a modern scholar, concluded that they had no parallel except in the persecution of the Middle Ages and the concentration camps of Nazi Germany. Don't blame some of these details. Don't some of these details sound familiar today with the constant harassment and arrest of black youths by the police throughout America?
Right.
Now you imagine that. Right. You got give me a definition on vermin.
Vermin?
Yeah. It's VERMIN.
Sir, if I may.
Come on with it.
I just got some statistics for the prison system. 2017, they made $74 billion off the prison system profit. Yeah, let me see. The other one was 182 billion.
Damn.
I forget which. I missed the year because I just clicked off of it. But I wanted to read this.
I think. Damn, we need some of that damn stimulus money.
God, oh my God.
They need to put that back in the black community. At least half that. Damn. Go ahead.
It says this report offers some much needed clarity by piecing together this country's desperate system of confinement. The American criminal justice system holds almost 2.3 million people in 1,833 state prisons, 110 federal prisons, and 1,772 juvenile correctional facilities. 3,134 local jails, 218 immigration detention facilities, and 80 Indian country jails. It says, now I want to skip down to this part right here, sir, where it says every year over 600,000 people enter prison gates, but people go to jail 10.6 million times a year. That's ridiculous.
Damn.
So 600,000 people enter the jail, but that 600,000 people goes there 10 million times each year. So pretty much it's the same group of people, pretty much, or specific. I would try to boil it down, knowing Esau, to a specific race is the majority of that 600,000, and the majority of how many times they continuously being harassed and locked up and sent to those jails in and out, just like you say, in and out. Like I don't know if they still say this, like jailbird. I don't know.
Yeah.
They used to say that all the time. Like you a jailbird.
Jailbird.
In and out the cage all day long.
Now they say, yo, he a jail nigga.
Right, sir. 182 billion yearly profit.
Damn.
182 billion.
Hey, let me ask you something. That was the amount of jails and federal penitentiaries and state penitentiaries that you was running down the list? Also, that's the new plantation. Damn.
Right. So I'm gonna put it up on the actual screen.
If I could too, sir. Like, can you imagine the private prison corporations are responsible for the uniforms that workers at McDonald's wear, Victoria's Secrets, furniture you buy at the furniture store, parachutes, things that are made in the military, including boots, uniforms.
God.
You know, a lot of private prison corporations, find a way, and it's crazy because you look at how the business model of the private prison corporation is the exact same business model that you had with sharecropping and these black code laws. It's the very same thing. Only thing is today they use a legalized term called private prison corporation.
Yeah.
And all of it stems from the black code.
Right. And here's the crazy the madness to it, right? Because of course I know guys that have been locked up, and they say that the private corporation prisons, their rules and laws are worse than the state law. Like you got guys that went to prison when the state was running it, and then they went back to prison, and the corporations was running it, and they said the food is lousy, and you eat, and you get less. You know what I mean? And the whole thing is totally different.
Right.
Like the weights are gone, the food is, you get less food. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they said if you get in trouble, you're not under a state law of corrections, you under the private company's law.
Right.
And I just wonder, what's vermin?
Kawaka. This is from the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Vermin. Number 2 might be the definition you're looking for. An offensive person.
Go ahead.
An offensive person.
Read
1.
Yeah, read 1.
1A. Small, common, harmful, or objectionable animals, such as lice.
That's what he was talking about. Vermin investigators. Oh yeah. Read number 2 again.
Kawaka. Number 2. An offensive person.
Yeah, you was correct. That's who the investigators were. And I'm gonna continue on. All right. Page 38. And in one of the series of articles published in the Philadelphia Tribune, dated September 24, 1981, a former police officer, Stephen Henderson, said that while he was a member of the Philadelphia Police Department, he was frequently disturbed by the contempt many police officers, in particular white officers, harbored against black youth in particular, and black people in general. I remember General Haas was telling the story on how the white cop told him to go out and harass, Now this is like in the early 2000s that General Haas was talking about, or the late 90s. But here it is. This is in 1981. Okay, he said people in general. He said he knew dozens of incidents where black youths was targeted of police abuse in the form of unnecessary or unwarranted arrests and beatings. Henderson said that it seemed as though the police want all black youths out of here to have criminal records so that in the future they will surely never be able to get a job and thus be rendered useless to society. It seems like the only place for some forces in this society want black youths and black men is in jail. All right. Henderson said he too was concerned with the apparent apathy that existed in the black community in relations to the crime, especially crimes of black perpetrated upon blacks. He said that while the black community has readily acknowledged that black on black crime is a problem in the community, it has left the responsibility for cleaning it up to the police, the district attorney's office, and social service agencies. Henderson contends that if the black community allow outside agencies to do the job that they could be doing in the home and in the community, then more and more black youths would fall by the wayside. Meaning if it's done by outside, we're going to keep falling. And that's what's happening. Here it is, 2021.
Right.
Now this is like, okay, when I was a young child, at I think I was about 8 years old. I might have been in the 3rd or the 2nd grade. It was a police killing of a guy that was older than me. He was 15. And, he took me under his wing as he would, play with me as I was, coming up, even when I was younger. And I knew him, I called his name Stevie. Well, this brother died and got killed by the police in front of my building. All right. So they tried to, say now, got to remind you, there's no phones at this era. Ain't no cab calls and none of that. So they went through the trials and all that. So finally, they awarded her money. This lady, it happened in 73. The mother of the child didn't get any money until like 80, I think 85. You know what I mean? 86. That's a long time. From 73 to 86. And guess what they gave her? $60,000. Wow. That ain't nothing.
Right.
That ain't nothing.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? So does anybody want to bring anything out?
I do have one scripture, sir, if I may. Can you give me the one that's on the phone? I think it's James 1:6. Just to bring out about what you said, sir, about how they, how they take advantage of us, and how it's about the rich, the poor don't get nothing. Just the whole jail system, and all that. How they just just making tons of money off of us, sir. While we're slaves in America. You got James 1:6.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is the book of James, chapter 1 and verse 6. But let him ask in faith.
Right now. Right.
Okay. No sweat.
James 2:6.
Okay. This is the book of James, chapter 2 and verse 6. But ye have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you?
Right.
Fact, sir. If I may, like those numbers that you was bringing out, and even like it took 12 years for them to give a sister $60,000. I mean, it took months for us to beg for $1,400 and $600 while everybody was dying. I mean,
right.
Men, they oppress us. Read on.
And draw you before the judgment seats.
That's the prison system right there. They draw you right before those judgment seats. And they profiting off of it. The rich men, it's like you said, those corporations, they making so much money now. It's
right.
Like, there's a whole system in this biblical. Rich men oppress the poor, send them to jail, make them work, make them richer, and the poor get poor.
Poor get poor. That's how it always is.
Hey,
right? Hey, give me one scripture. Jeremiah, right? Chapter 30. I'm gonna let this be the last one. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 16.
This is the book of Jeremiah.
Go to 15. Go to 15. No, just say at 16. That's fine. Go ahead.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30 and verse 16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured.
They got a time coming that we're going to devour them. Go ahead.
And all thine adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity.
Read on.
And they that spoil thee shall
be. They that spoiled us. Go ahead. And they that spoiled us. Go ahead.
Shall be a spoil. And all they that prey upon thee will I give for a prey.
Keep reading.
Verse 17.
That's what we look for. You know what I mean? This is straight up revenge. This is straight up justice. Go ahead.
Verse 17. For I will restore health unto thee.
So don't worry about it. We're going to be restored. The Lord is going to restore health to us. And that's everything. Go ahead.
and I will heal thee of thy wounds, saith the Lord, because they call thee an outcast, saying, This is Zion, whom no man seeketh after.
All right. Shalom.
In general, if I may,
Come on.
can I leave them with a little something that I want people to see the correlation between what happened here and what happened before. But this is Columbus made La Taína, the land of the Taínos, into a living hell. He went beyond simply killing those who fought the Spanish. The Spanish had the Taínos grilled, cut up into pieces like sheep, run down by hunting dogs and torn into pieces, strung and buried alive 13 at a time in memory of Jesus and his 12 disciples. They would kill even women and children, even babies. The Spanish threw babies against rocks and into rivers and laughed. They cut off pieces of Taínos for entertainment. They cut off their heads for practice. They raped women and girls and brought back syphilis to Europe. They even raped a wife of a king. But that's just a small piece of the rest of the stuff that I would like to read. But I know we got to end the show. But you read in American history, them same things happened to Judah here.
Right.
Every same thing.
Everything.
Now, for those that don't believe that the Latinos are Israelites, well, then explain those things to us.
Right.
Right.
That was it, sir.
God, no sweat. The curses follow the 12 tribes of Israel. You know what I mean? You might see Hamites cutting one another up, but you don't see the oppressor cutting up. You know what I mean? Like the oppressor ain't gonna cut up his own people, but he'll cut up Israelites.
Yep.
Right. You know what I mean? So with that, shalom, let a Hebrew speak. Next week, the water under Commander General Yohanna, just let a Hebrew speak. The water of the General Haas, let me drop in here. At the water of the I.S.U.P.K, Captain I.S.U.P.K, Officer Marah, and Officer Abad.
Come.
Water. You know what I mean? We're gonna try to get the other brother from Puerto Rico back in here. You know what I mean? But shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahshua
Barak. Barak.
Yahweh Shem Yahshua Brakatha.
Yahweh Shem Yahshua Brakatha.
Shalom, sir.
Shalom.
Warrior with the hands, that's what I'm all about. Hunger in my eyes, vengeance in my mouth. They don't want no altercation. Situation gon' get critical. It's best that you be easy. The end gon' be biblical. Look, flow like a river. It's something like a miracle. Royalty in my veins, loyalty in my ways. Pay back in every breath, plus revenge in my heart. The truth in every word. Bring light into the dark. And I ain't never lukewarm. Shit, I blazing in the season. Got plenty food for thought. Just gotta watch who I'm feeding. Now they walking with them angels. So I guess I got this pistol for no reason. Niggas barely breathing, criticizing all my achievements. Won't make me weak. Nah, it won't make me slack off. These niggas baby fat soft. Better bear witness or back off. I be ripping shit like sackcloth. Dumb dogs all barked out. Behind me say I cup full. No room for emotion. So I pour my heart out. This road hard, but I intend to stay. And if it ain't UPK, then they in the way. My niggas righteous, they real, they down to suffer. Flow so deep, to drown a motherfucker. He say he in the truth, oh yeah? Well, this the home. And I don't hate them brothers, I'm just too loyal to my own. Plus what they believe, hard for me to follow. No rank me, no head. And I ain't leaving this body to live and sleep in hollow. So when they ask I'm UPK, you tell them absolutely. And I ain't trimming my ways for nothing. Gotta execute me. Cause I can never die with my tail tucked between my legs. Shit I be thinking. Watching my daughters tucked in their bed. They so smart. And Alana, she's so beautiful, but they ain't like other babies. And they daddy far from usual. Now I'm missing cause I'm about my father's business. It ain't about the shit I used to do in that 98 Navy, the tan leather seats. See, without wisdom, this world make you weak. I found out that the truth was bitter.
The lies are sweet, tried everything. I guess me and Yahanna had to meet. Now I make the blind see, and I make the dead speak, and teach both my little girls the day that they lie with a man, they better bring me bloody bed sheets. Chaos match the time. This Glock match my handpiece, and I ain't trying to take him out, but I will defend this house or take a check. 144 in that black trench on some hitman shit. She call me 47. Praying for Armageddon. Me and my soldiers dressed for the wedding. Fuck the fame. Ask why, tell them I'm loyal to the king. Until the righteous reign. Loyal to the king. I walk that straight lane to break the chain. Loyal to the king. The devils can't have me, bitch. I'm loyal to the king. That's right. Bring that hot flame, duplicate. Loyal to the king. Until the righteous reign. Lord to the king. I walk that straight lane to break the chains. Lord to the king. The devils can't have me, bitch. I'm Lord to the king. Bring that hot flame, duplicate. Lord to the king.